story of Chaim is not only a unique testament to the horrific events that occurred over the Holocaust, but is an heirloom that we, Chaim's great-grandchildren, will cherish deeply. A memoir written so beautifully and personally that keeps our great Zeta so close to our hearts.
We are so grateful to have the opportunity to learn of and admire the triumphs of our great-grandfather over all the adversities he came by throughout his lifetime. His story fills us with so much pride and is one that we are so lucky and excited to share with the world. Ashley and I are so blessed to have known and spent so many special memories with both our great-grandparents, Chaim and Rosa. Unfortunately, we were not able to meet our biological great-grandmother, Hannah, although through my Bubba Malka's book and stories we have heard in our childhood, we are both privileged to have learned a lot about her. Despite many years of the passing of both Chaim, our great Zeta, and Rosa, our great Bubba, there are so many memories we have of them. My great Zeta Chaim always used to tell me how he was the strongest man, and I would always laugh it off. But after being exposed to such stories and tragedies my great Zeta embarked, I think it's more than fair to say he was one of the strongest people, emotionally, mentally, and physically. My great Zeta was truly one of a kind. He always had the coldest hands and would say, "Cold hands, but warm heart." This phrase is more than relatable to my great Zeta, as he never stopped to give or be there for his family and friends throughout the Holocaust and post-war. Through reading L'Chaim, not only brought back those memories I shared with my great Zeta, but I also learned a lot more of who he was and what his life was like. My Bubba Malka's book has done him proud.
Our time spent with Chaim is something I still recall so vividly, as he is not a person you can simply forget. It still astonishes me that the gentle, forever giving, humorous, and above all, humble person I came to know over 11 years could be the strong and resilient man illustrated in Bubba's stories. As she repeatedly emphasizes in her book, Zeta's life was not defined by survival, but by living, by devoting himself to his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and never wallowing in his past misfortune. He built the most successful life for himself and his family, and left us with a legacy of love and compassion.
We are so proud of you, Bubba, for your hard work and determination in producing the book you launched today. You are an inspiration to all of us to never stop striving to achieve our dreams, and in doing so, you have not only kept memories of great Zeta alive, but also kept his survival story alive. Bubba's commitment to educating about the Holocaust extends far beyond her book. Every week she volunteers at the Holocaust Center as a guide, helping keep hundreds of people informed so that the Holocaust is never forgotten. Bubba, we admire you so deeply and are so excited to be sharing the milestone of your book launch with you. We hope you all enjoy Bubba's story as much as we did. Thank you.
Bubba Malka, your grandchildren are proud of you. I think you're proud of them too. And now we all know how old you are. The foreword to the Chaim was penned by Professor Andrew Markus, a preeminent scholar who holds the Pratt Foundation Research Chair of Jewish Civilization at Monash University and is the university's director of the Australian Centre for Jewish Civilization. Professor Markus's achievements are not only commendable but simply remarkable. A fellow of the Academy of the Social Sciences in Australia and a past head of Monash University School of Historical Studies, he has enjoyed and continues to enjoy a stellar academic career. His achievements, however, extend far beyond his research into the Jewish community. Most of you will be familiar with the Gen 08 and Gen 17 surveys and the Yiddish Melbourne. Professor Markus has also served as a consultant at the Jewish Holocaust Center, and it is an absolute privilege to invite him on Malka's behalf to launch the book.
Good afternoon, everybody, and Michael, thank you very much for that generous introduction. And Malka, thank you very much for giving me the honour to write the foreword and to participate in today's event to launch the book. This is indeed a very special occasion. Every occasion to do with the memoirs that we come into contact with through the many publications that have been published here in Melbourne by the Land Library and the Holocaust Museum. It is such an important legacy, and Malka brings us always face to face with that reality that was the Holocaust and the magnitude and the scale of the Holocaust, and you know, its enduring impact. The book that we're launching today, The Exceptional Life of Chaim Sztajer, relates the journey of Chaim to the furthest depths of the Nazi hell and his journey back to life, and the journey of his daughter, born in post-war Germany, raised in Israel and Australia, and then the succeeding generations. Now, every Holocaust survivor has a unique story of survival. It's almost true by definition, because if you were part of the group that was targeted for death, the only way that you could survive would be through miracles. I asked my mother, and my mother has miracles to tell. One of my great uncles, you know, was lined up, and the Nazis went along and they were going to shoot every 10th person. So depending on where you were in the line, you lived or you died. And it's not only, and that's why this book is so important, that it helps us to understand, or we don't need to understand, but others need to understand, that what was being destroyed was a human life, but also generations to come were destroyed. And when we think of the scale of the events, like in Auschwitz in 1 week, more souls were put to death than the size of the Melbourne Jewish community today in 1 week. You know, at the rate of 6,000 every day, each and every day. Chaim Sztajer's uniqueness was not the miracle of survival, but the circumstances of survival and the story that he had to tell. And the Nazis established a very large number of concentration camps. But of these, there were, as we now understand today, 5 extermination camps. We used to say 6. Majdanek is now seen by historians really as more of a concentration camp, which at certain times served the function of a killing centre, but its sole purpose was not a killing centre. But what are known as the Reinhard camps, Belzec, Sobibor and Treblinka, had the sole function of putting people's lives to an end, to killing people. It had no other function. And of the Reinhard camps, the largest was Treblinka. It is estimated that something like 900,000 people were killed in Treblinka. That compares to Auschwitz, which was the largest of the camps, at about 1.1 million. So that gives us a sense of scale, because what has come to symbolise the Holocaust is Auschwitz. But Treblinka, from which Chaim Sztajer survived, was almost as large. And I'm always struck by the irony that the Nazi regime sought to hide from posterity their deeds. And yet, Auschwitz, were a very large number of survivors from Auschwitz, some of whom may be in the room today. Certainly, if we were having this event 10 years ago, there would be many in the room today. And the reason for that was that significant numbers of people went into Auschwitz and were taken out again. Taken out to go and work in other areas. And then when that Auschwitz camp was closed down, there were these death marches involving many thousands of people who had survived. Most of them died on the death marches, but again a significant number survived. The point of this is solely this sense of scale. Treblinka, in terms of the devastation that it reaped, was almost as large as Auschwitz, which has come to symbolise the Holocaust. And about Auschwitz, there are a very large number of testimonies and a very large number of survivors. Very, very few survivors from Treblinka. And indeed from any of the Reinhardt camps. Why? Because these camps were closed down relatively early. And the Nazis made sure that they killed everybody who had stories to tell. What made Treblinka unusual was that there was a revolt, successful revolt in part, during which several hundred managed to escape, and of those, a relatively few survived. And of those survivors, one was Chaim Sztajer. He had witnessed the worst barbarities that humanity could ever engage in systematically, day after day, day after day. He was involved in picking up the threads of that killing operation, removing bodies, and then later on exhuming bodies one by one. Because in the process of wanting to hide what they had done, the Nazi regime went back and sought to exhume burial pits. And the exhumation was performed by slave labourers, one of whom was Chaim Sztajer. So part of this book recounts the story, the journey to Treblinka, survival, and the journey back to life. The journey back to life involved time spent in displaced person camps, then in Israel, and in 1955, Chaim, with family, 2 children, came to Australia. So this book is a testimony, and a very rare testimony, of the realities of that terrible place, Treblinka. It's a story of miraculous escapes, impossible escapes. That Chaim could be one of the few selected because someone walked by and said to the Nazi guards, wait a minute, he's a very good worker. Take him out. While his wife and child were murdered that day. And that remarkable capacity to survive those experiences, to retain sanity, and then to rebuild a life in Australia. The book is not presented as a history of Treblinka. You won't find footnotes in this. You won't find a bibliography. It's not a historical source. Rather, it is a retelling of the experiences and the recollections of Chaim Sztajer as told to his daughter, son-in-law, testimonies that he gave, because he recorded 2 testimonies, one for the Holocaust Museum and one for the Shoah Foundation. But then this book recounts that second journey, the return to life. Through the crafting of this book, Malka Zylbersztajn brings to notice both the reality of this horror that was the Nazi regime and then the rebuilding. It's a richly detailed tapestry of many lives, of generations reformed. And certainly, as always, when I'm brought face to face with these realities, it brings us face to face with that reality of that potential that had been destroyed, as more than 6 million lives were ended. To meet that daily quota of death in these factories that were being constructed by the Nazi regime in Treblinka and Sobibor and Belzec and Auschwitz, and in other scales in other places. Something we often don't understand, that the 6 million that were put to death, less than half were actually in the camps. More than 1 million were simply shot by the Einsatzgruppen. And huge numbers of others were put in situations where life could not go on, such as the Warsaw Ghetto, with its hundreds of thousands of Jews incarcerated in a very small space. And so we owe a debt of thanks to Malka, Sam, the family, for the countless hours that went into the writing of this book. And we owe a great debt to the Jewish Holocaust Centre for publishing this book, for establishing this institution, for the determination of the survivors who came to define the Melbourne Jewish community, to educate their peers in Australian society, and to educate the succeeding generations, so that the horrors of this period of human history would not be forgotten. And weekly, large numbers of students are brought here and given the opportunity to inform themselves and be informed. It's a wonderful legacy, and this book adds to that legacy. Sadly, that refrain that we hear so often, never again, let us not forget. Daily we see evidence that it has been forgotten, it is being forgotten. Hard to pick up a newspaper and not find accounts of the troubles daily facing Israel. Day after day after day. Throughout the world we see evidence of the continuing strength of anti-Semitism. But in a community such as Melbourne, when we go about our daily events, we have to be protected by the security group. So, what can we do? All we can do is what we can do. Keep going, try to educate, leave a legacy. And Malka, your family, it is my great pleasure to launch this very significant book and to thank you for this legacy for continuing generations. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for taking the time to come to the launch of my father's memoir. Firstly, a huge thank you to all the wonderful support that I have received from everyone at the Holocaust Centre. Michael Cohen, thank you for being such an awesome MC and also for being my guiding hand throughout this journey. Ashley Taylor, words cannot describe the pride and love I hold in my heart for you. And for all our amazing grandchildren, thank you for your beautiful words today. Andrew Markus, again, a humongous thank you for both writing the foreword to my book and for your incredible words today. There are so many people that I need to thank for this book coming into fruition. First and foremost, thank you from the bottom of my heart to my awesome husband and best friend, Sam. This book would never have been completed without the unwavering support and continuous help from you. Your patience and encouragement remained steady throughout the numerous drafts. You listened carefully and contributed to each reading and editing version of my father's heart-wrenching memoir. Thank you, Sam, for your ongoing belief in me that I could actually write this book. And I am so appreciative of your encouragement and love in this, our 51st year of marriage. Seeing the unconditional love and care that you bestowed on first my father and then my stepmother, Rosa, as their sole caregiver, showed how selfless and incredibly inspiring you are. There are no words that could adequately convey what a beautiful mensch you are. I'm humbled in your presence. Thank you to my beautiful family, who are always there to help and support us in our journey of life. I desperately wanted them to be able to have a greater understanding who this amazing man was, beyond Chaim's status as their beloved Zayda and great Zayda. And this kept me focused and committed to completing my book. Where's Renee?
She's outside.
Is she there? Can you find her? Oh, there. Okay, Renee Zylbersztajn. Thank you for your incredible talent in designing the cover of this book. My father would not only have admired your design skills, but there are no doubt that he would have been smitten by the beautiful person that you are. A huge thank you to Louise Helfgott, who was the first person I asked to read and edit my father's memoir. Louise, you made me feel like my father would have been proud of my accomplishment. I have so much respect and admiration for your expertise and talents, and your encouragement spurred me on greatly. Where's Donna? Oh, there she is. To my dear friend Donna Campisi, thank you for your pearls of wisdom. When I was so scared to put pen to paper, you were instrumental in the birth of this mammoth undertaking. Helen Jones, who lives in London and is a long-standing client of mine, thank you for your kindness, encouragement, and excellent advice. Without it, I would still be trying to work out how I was ever going to begin this book. Thank you to Warren Feinberg and Julia Reichstein. Thank you. At the Jewish Holocaust Center for your time, understanding, and incredible support in the publishing of this book. Thank you, Izzy and Etty Mamur, for your editing, proofreading, and unwavering time and effort. Also, thank you to Julie Tanner for your professionalism and the printing of my manuscript. Finally, to Anna Hirsch, and she at the moment is presenting a paper on my father in Krakow on his birthday. Finally, to Anne Hirsch, I'm eternally grateful for your ongoing support, your fabulous editing, your time, patience, and your expertise in Holocaust history. L'chaim, Dad. Love you and miss you every single day. Today, on the 15th of July 1909, 109 years ago, Chaim Sztajer was born into a very poor but happy and loving religious Jewish family in Częstochowa, Poland. I recall all the times that I would arrive here at the Holocaust Center with my 3 incredible children in tow, all of us laden with gifts for my father for either his birthday or Father's Day. Because my dad not only lived at the Holocaust Centre, but he gave his all to the establishment and the everyday support of it. Well, here I am presenting him with his own memoir in a book on his birthday. Chaim, my father, Hella, his first wife, Hannah, my mother, Chaim's second wife, Rosa, my beautiful stepmother, Chaim's third wife, myself and my family are honoured and humbled and feel privileged to invite you to learn some more about the time that changed the face of humanity. I wrote this book like so many others have written their books in the past and will in the future. For me, it was to bring a sort of understanding, justice, to my father's, mother's and stepmother's plight. I also wrote this book to give kuvvetz, respect, to the memory of grandparents, aunts, uncles and cousins who never held me, kissed me, or sadly, I cannot and will never be able to put a face to, as no photos of them survived the horrors of the Holocaust, but their fleeting short memories are part of my DNA. This book's inception started maybe 40 years or more ago, but sadly it started and stayed quietly swimming around the deep recesses of my brain. Every time my beautiful father started to reminisce about his past, I thought, wow, I need to record this. But alas, I thought I had time on my side. I did not interrupt him in times of reminiscing, which always fell on memorable, treasured moments, like Pesach, Yom Kippur, Hanukkah, Rosh Hashanah, Shabbat, or any simpler that transpired, good or bad. He continued to tell whoever was in earshot times of his happy memories, of family life in Częstochowa, Poland, sad or terrifying memories that he had lived through during his nearly 12 months of internment in the death camp Treblinka, where as a Sonder commando, he barely survived the horrendous experiences and painful losses. I woke up one morning about 4 years ago to a light bulb moment that if I didn't write his memoir, it will be washed away into oblivion. This terrified me to the bone, as my father was my life. So at that precise moment, I named my book, My Father, My Life. On the completion of my book and after what seemed to me thousands of editing sessions, readings and rewritings, I had come to a complete manuscript, and with the support of so many, I changed the title to L'chaim, which was so apt for a man of humility who loved people and life itself and who had such an infectious humour. Every time we raised our glasses for a celebration of life's blessings, Chaim would give you that cheeky little boy's smile with that twinkle in those breathtaking, incredibly sky blue eyes of his, and he would say, L'chaim, adding quietly and cheekily, to me. His long-term memory was always so exceptional. He could always recall minute details, places, dates, addresses of loved ones, friends and neighbours. For example, he would say something like this to my stepmother. You remember Mr. So-and-so? He lived in apartment such and such on this street, and this was the number of his flat. His talented, warm hands never stopped creating pieces of artwork that his memory would not allow him to rest until he completed, such as the model of Treblinka, which resides here at the Holocaust Centre, the old Częstochowa Shul that has been at the Jewish Museum for many years and has now been graciously donated to the Holocaust Centre. This lectern from the Kadima that I'm standing at, and lots of pieces of woodwork that now reside at the Caulfield and Surface Paradise Shul. His love for and of his family transcended everything. but he also loved people, even though he survived the worst that man could become. People found this humble man quiet, funny, and warm. Today would have been Chaim's 109th birthday. L'chaim to the exceptional life of Chaim Sztajer. By the way, all proceeds from this book go to the Holocaust Centre, where my father gave his time, energy, and love unconditionally. I wasn't going to do this, but I had Taylor who said to me to do this. About a week ago, I woke up one morning and I had something so hard on my heart that I actually sat down and wrote it. I've never written poetry, I've never done anything like that in my life, but I'm going to read you this because it is from the heart. It's named Blimale. Dad, I now cry your tears. No wonder I couldn't see, I had my glasses on. Dad, now I cry your tears. For your first wife, Hella. For your baby girl, Blimale. Dad, you named me after your beloved mother and your precious, cherished 2.5-year-old baby daughter. Her tiny life wrenched from your hands while you stood cold, naked and shocked. What would she have become if these horrendous horrors didn't befall on her or 1.5 million other Jewish children? Would she have grown up to be a prima ballerina, a scientist, a world-acclaimed actress, a poet, or a humanitarian? The world has been made poorer by the loss of, we have no idea about. Maybe a world leader that would have brought everlasting peace to our world. My tears will continue to fall for all. Grandparents I never met, who never held me, kissed me or played with me. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins who were murdered. I cannot put a face to any of them, and no photos of them survived. I do not know if I have my grandmother's eyes or my grandfather's hands, but I do know they live within me. My tears will continue to fall, little Blimale. I used to shun my name, Blima. It did not sound anglicised to my ears. It sounded alien, and I knew in my heart of hearts friends would laugh at its strangeness. But Blima means flower. Flowers are supposed to bloom. My tears will continue to fall, little Blimale. I always wanted a sister to play with, to tell secrets to. Now I know I had an older half-sister and an older brother. They did not play with me. We did not laugh, cry, or keep precious secrets from our loving parents. No photos to compare if we had the same nose or ears. But many tears keep on falling, little Blimale. Thank you.